It's a crisp and sunny morning in the town of Whiterun, and as we look out across the horizon line, there's only one thing on our mind. What are we going to do today? We've been out and about for weeks now, killing bandits and slaying monsters. Maybe today we'll just relax and see what's going on inside Dragon's Reach. After all, everybody needs a break from time to time. Hi Fiona, how are you today?
Soldiers. They're everywhere these days, and not a one of them knows how to pick up after themselves.
Yes, those soldiers sure can get rowdy sometimes. I'll tell them to pick up after themselves next time I see them passing around the bottle. Good morning, Gerda.
Are you feeling all right, dear? You look a little ill.
Well, I have been feeling a bit under the weather lately. Thanks for your concern. Hey there, Ferengar.
Come to Dragon's Reach to discuss the ongoing hostilities, like the rest of the great warriors?
No. How are you doing, young man?
Another wanderer, here to lick my father's boots. Good job.
Sheesh, somebody woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. Since everyone seems to be in a bad mood today, maybe I'll just leave them be and curl up with a good book instead. Let's see, The Cabin in the Woods, The Alduin Akatosh Dichotomy, The Bear of Markarth, no. Rising Threat Volume 1, no, that's not it. This one looks interesting. The Legend of Red Eagle. This tale was transcribed from the memory of Clarice Vienne, a student of Winterhold. Elements of the legend suggest a date C.1E 1030, though as with any oral tradition, much of it is likely a later anachronism. Curiously, stories of a similar king and his legendary blade appear in other ancient myths of the Reach. Long ago, a child was born in the Sundered Hills. They named him Theolin, which means red eagle in the tongue of the Reach, for the screeching bird call that greeted his birth and the crimson blooms on the autumn hills. Thus began his legend, Reach Child, born under auspicious skies, his very name the color of blood. 10 kings ruled the Reach in those days, and though men were free, the people were scattered and warred amongst themselves. The augurs foresaw the boy's destiny, a warrior without peer, first and foremost Lord of the Reach, chosen to unite all under his name. Phelan grew in years and strength, and it seemed the prophecy would be fulfilled. The banner of the Red Eagle was raised along the cliffs of the Reach, and his people prospered. Then came Hestra, Empress of the South, riding to war. One by one the kings stood before her. One by one they fell aside, bending knee in imperial bargains or slaughtered on the battlefield. Her legions came at last to the Sundered Hills, and envoys were sent to bargain for their surrender. Phelan refused to yield the freedom of his people, but the elders were afraid, cast him out, and accepted the imperial yoke. Thus was stolen by the foreign invaders, his land, his people, his very name. In the years that followed, Red Eagle became known as the untamed spirit of the Reach, unbowed, unbroken, stained by the blood of his foes. He gathered loyal Reachmen to himself, those who clung to the old ways, who yearned for freedom, and forged a new nation. Together they fell upon the occupiers and the traitors by night, disappearing into the cliffs and caves each morn, evading capture. It was not enough. For every imperial patrol and garrison they wiped out, yet more seemed to march from the green south to replace them. One night, under a cloud-choked sky, the men of the Red Eagle warmed themselves over damp fires of smoldering moss. A huddled, shambled figure came to them, cloaked in rags, face cowled. Though his men mocked and cast stones at the stranger, Phelan sensed something and beckoned. The cowl was thrown back in the dim light, and she revealed herself to be one of the ancient and venerable Hagravens. She offered power for a price, and a pact was made. Thus was brokered to the witch, his heart, his will, his humanity. From that day forth he was a spirit of vengeance, pitiless and beyond remorse. The rebels grew in strength and numbers, and none could stand against them. Phelan's eyes burned coldly in those days, black opals reflecting a mind not entirely his own. 2 years passed, and the foreigners were all but driven from the Reach. Such a peace could not last, however. and a great host fell upon them, a swift army of invaders unlike any before. For a fortnight, Hestra's generals laid siege to Red Eagle's stronghold, till he himself came forth for battle, alone and robed in nothing but his righteous fury. 1,000 foreigners fell before his flaming sword, and the enemy was routed. Yet, when night fell, so too did he. The warriors who came to him said Pheolin's eyes were clear again on that final night. He was taken to a place prepared for him, a tomb hidden deep within the rock. With his remaining strength he presented his sword to his people, and swore an oath. Fight on, and when at last the reach is free, his blade should be returned, that he might rise and lead them again. Thus was given for his people, his life, his dream, his sword. But when every debt is repaid in blood, these he shall reclaim once more. What an inspiring tale! Even after his own people cast him out and surrendered to Hestra's forces, the Red Eagle sacrificed his soul for them. He died giving his fellow Reachmen the strength they needed to carry on the fight, and though his physical being is long gone, his legacy will live on forever. After reading the legend of Red Eagle, we can set out on a quest by the same name to recover Red Eagle's sword and then return it to him at his burial site. Pulling up the map of Skyrim, we notice that the sword is located somewhere to the northwest of Moldering Ruins. I had already cleared Moldering Ruins in a previous playthrough, so I was able to fast travel and then continue on foot. The sun has set by the time we arrive at Moldering Ruins, and before we even have a chance to take a single step, we get attacked by a death hound and its bloodthirsty master.
Like the bite of a flea.
The creature we just cut down was a vampire's thrall, a being whose mind is under the control of a nearby vampire. I'm not quite sure where this vampire was hiding, but since there weren't any enemies showing up on my compass, I felt comfortable strolling into a nearby camp and having a look around. Inside one of the tents, we find a potion and a couple of low-level weapons sitting on a table, and just a few steps to the south is a passageway door leading down into Moldering Ruins. We want to stay focused on finding Red Eagle's sword, though, so let's move on. After making our way down the side of a cliff and fending off an attacking wolf, we can continue west over the rocky landscape. I must admit I had a bit of trouble finding the location of Red Eagle's sword in my playthrough, and trying to navigate over this jagged, uneven terrain didn't make it any easier. Up and down the sides of the cliffs I went, looking for the location marked on my compass. At last, we come face to face with a Forsworn, an affiliate of the Reachmen that's part Nord and part Breton. Something tells me we're getting close.
That's your back!
After taking out a second Forsworn, we notice that we have stumbled into some kind of temple that's been built into the side of a cliff. These are the Sundered Hills that were referenced in the book, the birthplace of Red Eagle. There's a small campfire below us, and heading north, we can climb up 3 sets of stairs until we get rushed by more Forsworn.
That's all you've got? Mercy! Force! Roll!
There's some more tents surrounding a campfire, and heading south we find a forge. Sadly, there aren't any weapons lying around other than a steel mace on top of an anvil, but inside of a nearby adept-locked chest, we can loot some gold and an iron battle axe. Let's check and see if we can find any more loot over here. Ah!
Force! Roll!
I did not see that coming. Heading east, we can climb up some more steps and defend ourselves against 2 more Forsworn, one of which is Forsworn Briarheart.
Enough! Force! Roll!
Once Forsworn Briarheart is defeated, we can loot his body, upon which we find Red Eagle's Fury. This is the sword that we read about back in Whiterun. The sword once wielded by Red Eagle himself, but left behind when he was sent to his final resting place. Red Eagle's Fury has a base damage of 8 and burns the target for 5 points, making it a relatively weak weapon, but unique nonetheless. With Red Eagle's Fury safely in our possession, it is now up to us to deliver the blade to the ghost of Red Eagle, whose tomb is located due east inside of Rebel's Cairn. But before we depart, let's have a look around Sundered Towers to make sure we're not missing anything. Not far from the spot where we encountered and defeated Forsworn Briarheart, we find some steps leading up into one of the towers. Inside is a desk with another copy of The Legend of Red Eagle, along with some ruined books. Heading south, we can climb up some more steps to the 2nd floor. It looks like the right side of the room is blocked off by some stone and rubble, so to continue forward, we have to turn left and step back outside. There's a wooden ramp winding up the tower's exterior wall, and on top is a drawbridge that looks as though it connects to a 2nd tower to the east. There should be a switch or something nearby to lower it. Aha, here it is. We'll cross the bridge in a moment, but first let's finish exploring this tower. Sadly though, the tower's 2nd floor is just as empty as the first, with nothing but some more ruined books, a couple of skulls, and some gold inside of an urn. There are some more steps leading up to a 3rd floor, and then a final set of stairs that we can use to climb up to the tower's lookout. This looks like it would have been a great view if it weren't for all of the fog. Darn, I was really looking forward to seeing what the Reach looks like from above. Maybe another day. Heading back down to the 2nd floor, we can walk across the drawbridge that we just lowered and make our way east into yet another tower. Here we find a novice-locked chest with a glass war axe of expelling inside, which deals 40 damage and sends Daedra up to level 20 back to oblivion. Wow, for a novice-locked chest, I sure wasn't expecting that. Anyway, climbing up some stairs to the 2nd floor, we can jump across to a ledge on the opposite side of the room, but sadly there's nothing here. Instead, we can jump back across and head up more stairs to yet another lookout point. And this time, the view is incredible. The sun has burnt through the thick fog, giving us a truly memorable glance of the Reach from above. If we go back down the stairs, exit the tower, and immediately turn to the right, we can go down a wooden ramp and enter into a lower part of the tower. Here we find a potion of vigorous healing and a grand soul gem lying on top of some rubble. Heading down some more stairs, we can remove a wooden bar blocking a set of iron doors and step outside. Alright, time to refocus and get this sword to Red Eagle's tomb. The journey will be tough, no doubt, and our endurance will be tested. But as long as we stay on course and keep moving forward, we will... We're there already. That was quick. And here I was thinking that the journey to Red Eagle's tomb would be long and perilous. I'm not complaining, though. Just outside of Rebel's Cairn, we find something stuck to a root sticking up from the ground. Is that some kind of animal? Is it just a plant? Or is it... Ah! Where did that come from? I suppose you never can tell what's going to happen in the world of Skyrim. One minute you could be examining a stick, and the next you're being attacked by a fire-breathing dragon. Bethesda sure does know how to keep us guessing. Heading inside Rebel's Cairn, we find ourselves standing in a thin layer of fog, with mushrooms growing up from the ground and weeds dangling from the stone ledges to our left and right. Just up ahead, we find the head of an elk, with thorns sticking through it. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but it's definitely unsettling. Continuing east through the tunnel, we quickly come to an open room with some kind of pedestal in the middle. As we approach, we notice that there's a weapon slot on top. Maybe if we use Red Eagle's sword, a hidden door opens to the east. Continuing forward, we can follow a rather narrow tunnel into an enormous chamber, with giant stone pillars stretching from the floor to the ceiling. This must be the final resting place of the Red Eagle. Just as we start to have a look around, 4 skeletons rise up and attack. We manage to fend one off, but then turn around to see the ghost of Red Eagle, awoken from his tomb and looking for a fight. As the ghost of Red Eagle goes down, so too do the other 3 skeletons. On his body we find some gold, a petty soul gem, and the honed ancient Nord greatsword of Burning, boy that's a mouthful, which deals 17 damage and burns targets for 10 points, slightly more than Red Eagle's Fury. The skeletons don't offer much loot, but behind Red Eagle's tomb we find a chest that contains 273 gold, a potion of pickpocketing, a steel war axe, and ebony gauntlets. On top of that, we can loot a nearby coin purse, a steel mace, an ebony shield, some more soul gems, an elven greatsword, a dwarven dagger, and another coin purse. Not a bad haul, if I do say so myself. With that, we can head back to the room with the pedestal and take Red Eagle's Fury from the weapon slot, thus sealing off the tomb of Red Eagle forever. I really enjoyed this quest, not only because I walked away with some valuable loot and 2 unique weapons, but because of the story that was told in the process. Bethesda does an amazing job at creating characters that evoke a sense of curiosity and adventure, and it's this curiosity and sense of adventure that keeps players coming back for more. In my playthrough, I found myself wanting to learn as much about Red Eagle as possible to make the entire experience that much more fulfilling. And I can honestly say that I was not disappointed. Once again, I have nothing but praise for Bethesda. But I'd love to know what you think, folks. Were you as intrigued by the story of Red Eagle as I was? What do you think of the weapons you received for completing this quest? Do you think you'll be using Red Eagle's Fury more often? Or do you plan on wielding the honed ancient Nord greatsword of Burning? Let me know in the comments below. I post new videos on Skyrim every single Thursday and Friday, folks, so be sure to subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on all of my latest content. If you're an entertainment junkie like I am, then you might like my brand new podcast, Pass the Veal, where we discuss everything from upcoming video games to movies and television shows. I post video versions of the podcast right here on my YouTube channel every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So be sure to check that out as well. But that's all for now, folks. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.